Now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. In today's webinar, Andy Rocha, Principal Solutions Manager, provides an overview of the history of Oracle Data Visualization and Oracle Analytics Cloud, and demonstrates the product's main features and wide array of possible sources. Andy?
Thanks, Joey. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for joining us here. As Joey mentioned, we're going to be talking a little bit about OAC and specifically OAC as in Oracle Analytics Cloud, and specifically the data visualization tool within OAC, discussing a little bit of its history and maybe doing a little demo at the end if we have time. We have this webinar booked for 30 minutes, so I'll just jump right into it and try to save some time for questions in the end as well. So as I mentioned, I'm gonna talk for a couple minutes about the history of OAC, NDV, and why or how we got here. Also, I'm going to take some time to do a quick comparison between the two of the main tools within the OAC suite, Oracle's data visualization tool, which I will refer from here on out as DV, as well as Business Intelligence Cloud Service, which I'll call BICS going forward. There is talking to our clients, there's always a little bit of confusion around how they complement each other and how they both fit within OAC. So I'll take a few minutes to kind of differentiate the two later on. And like I said, at the end, I will take a few minutes to do a quick overview of DV, and we'll take some time for questions and answers in the end. So let's jump into it. First, the universe came into existence, and then the dinosaurs disappeared, and then Oracle decided to buy a company called Siebel, which in turn had purchased another company a few years before called Inquire Software. Inquire had developed an analytics tool, which Siebel was very much interested in bringing into its own suite of offerings, and that tool became what was known for several years as Siebel Analytics. Oracle, when Oracle purchased Siebel, Oracle rebranded Siebel Analytics as what was known for many years as Oracle Business Intelligence, or OBI or OBIE. There wasn't honestly much change done to Siebel Analytics when Oracle first purchased it. It was really just a rebranding because the tool was very good at what it did well. It had a very powerful semantic layer that allowed for quite a bit of transformation and custom calculations and renaming of fields. A lot of transformation and massaging of the metadata and how that data and metadata was going to be presented to the user. So over the years, obviously there have been several upgrades and new versions and new releases of OBIE, but the tool still pretty much had its roots in Inquire and the Siebel Analytics product. OBIE has been a big player in the enterprise dashboarding and reporting space for many years now. I've been an OBIE consultant by trade for over a decade now, and it's a good mature tool that has earned its place in that enterprise reporting and dashboarding space. But in recent years, it has come under threat, and you know we can spend a whole day discussing the reasons and why that happened and what those threats are. But I like to split into two main threats that I want to discuss today. One is the threat of self-service data visualization tools like Tableau, Power BI, Click, and so on. I have the Tableau logo here on this first picture just because Tableau is probably the more mature one, the one that probably has the largest market share in that small space, and probably the oldest one, the one that really we started eating chunks of OBIE space. Like I said, I've been an OBIE consultant for many years, and I can't tell you how many times I showed up at a client whose enterprise dashboarding and reporting tool of choice is OBIE, but when we go around talking to the different departments and different users, there's always a situation where they have Tableau installed or on the laptop on the side or in several laptops, connecting directly to their little data source that they have on the side, a SQL or Oracle database or an Access database, and doing their visualization straight out of their data, skipping OBIE altogether. And it's understandable. The reasons for that are understandable. Folks in the business community started getting tired of every time they want to add one new field to a report, they have to send a ticket to IT, and it takes 3 weeks for that field to show up. And that's not a knock on IT. You know, those guys are have their day jobs to do, and there might be backlogs of requests that need to be addressed. So there's a prioritization there that happens. But the simple explanation is that if I'm on the business side, I don't want to have to wait 3 weeks for something to get done for me every time. So Tableau and tools like it allow those users to take matters into their own hands, if you will, connect to their data sources very easily, and generate very powerful, sexy visualizations that accomplish everything they wanted to do without having to involve IT. The other threat that OBIE came under in recent years is cloud. If you haven't heard the word cloud in the last 5 years, is because you've been living in Mars, right? Everything, lots of commercials that we see on TV now, and lots of the software products that we work with and purchase have cloud somewhere in them, and that's understandable. Again, the advance in technology in that area allow us to save a lot of money and time and resources in procuring hardware, maintaining it, doing upgrades, extending our storage or compute needs there. So all that infrastructure maintenance and oversight, we can push now to the vendor, let them worry about that for us while we just do our work and go about our days, saving time, money, and headaches, right? OBIE historically have been an on-premises tool, and Oracle, other cloud tools, a perfect example there is Salesforce. Even though Salesforce is a CRM tool, they have their own analytics tool built in. And other ones have been also taking on Oracle or OBIE in that regard quite well, and Oracle had to react to it somehow. So Oracle, for years now, has been putting together a plan and a strategy around how to address these two threats, and I think Oracle has done a good job, and especially more recently in the last year or two, has done a very good job in addressing these situations. The way Oracle addressed the Tableau PowerBI click threat is Oracle Data Visualization. Oracle Data Visualization, Visualization's first appearance was as a product called Visual Analyzer as part of OBIE's on-premises offering, but since then has changed name and has evolved a lot, lots of new features, a very broad spectrum of what it can do in terms of connections and functionality, not only in visualizations, but also advanced analytics. So lots and lots of features available that made it a very formidable competitor to Tableau. Now, a few of the details around the tool that I wanted to list out here that I think are interesting for folks that haven't heard much about it is the ability to create dynamic visualizations. And what I mean by that is pick the fields you want, drop it on the screen, drop it on the canvas, and the tool will create visualizations for you based on the number of fields that you picked and what types of fields you're picking. It does a very, very good job at making those choices. When it should display a bar chart as opposed to a scatter chart. It knows based on what types of fields and how many of them. It creates very pretty visualizations that are effective as well in communicating information. And those visualizations can be organized into stories that can be shared with your organization. So you may create a visualization that just addresses this one question that you had in your mind and throw it away, but you may create something that you feel like other folks in your organization will benefit from seeing. So you can save that and save it as stories in almost a PowerPoint-like way of displaying the information that makes it very pleasing to look at and to consume and easy to understand and easy to share. Like I mentioned, it's very much a drag and drop style tool that's kind of expected of tools like this at this point, but it also allows for very easy uploads, connections, and mashups. So I may have some data sitting on my SQL Server database here, or that stores my CRM data, and I want to connect that with some weather data, or just download it from weather.com and see if weather patterns have any influence, or how much I sell, or the leads that I generate. It's very easy to pull that all into DV, mesh the data together through data flows, and do analysis on both of those sets together very quickly, and with easy, nice GUI interfaces that make the process very easy. No SQL or any type of knowledge, coding knowledge required there. Also, it's out of the box mobile enabled, and when I say that, I mean not only to consume via mobile devices, but also to create content in mobile devices, and it is device agnostic. So Android, iOS, whatever your device operating system is, the tool can accommodate that. The list of different sources that it can connect to is extensive and impressive. Lots of SaaS products like Salesforce, as I mentioned, relational databases, SQL Server, Oracle, DB2, all the big vendors there. Tools in the big data ecosystem like Impala and Cassandra and Spark and some others, and NoSQL databases, and really anything that you can connect via a JDBC or ODBC connection, DV can point to it as a source. And one interesting thing about DV is that you can use it in the cloud or on the desktop. So DV, when you purchase OAC, which again, Oracle Analytics Cloud, it's a cloud tool, you get the cloud version of DV that you can interact with via a browser, but you also get some license. Depending on how you license OAC, you're going to get a certain number of seats for the desktop version of DV that you can download and install and use locally. The features of the desktop and the cloud versions are very similar. So there isn't a lot of lag one way or another there. So, and the content can be shared. So if I create a project on the desktop, I can send it to the cloud and vice versa as well. On the other side, on the cloud side of the world, what Oracle created as an evolution of OBIE to address the cloud need is, again, OAC, Oracle Analytics Cloud. It includes multiple products. We've been talking about data visualization mostly, but OAC includes not only data visualization, but BICS, BI Cloud Service, as well as Essbase Cloud Service. And now there's a data lake edition of OAC as well. So the idea there is that Oracle decided to create an umbrella suite of all the analytics products that he has in the cloud to address all your analytics needs very comprehensively. Also, one thing that's interesting about OAC is that even though OAC is a cloud product, it can connect to sources in the cloud and on premises as well. I think that that's very interesting because you'll be naive to think that any organization would be able to move all their applications to the cloud over the weekend, right? If you decide to go with OAC and you could only connect to the cloud, you'll be naive for us to think that all your sources, your ERP or CRM and everything else that you have will be able to be pushed to the cloud in a day. You could flip the switch just like that. We know it doesn't work that way, but OAC's ability to connect to on-premises sources allow you to push your analytics to the cloud with OAC and do all that there and connect to your own premises sources while you work on a strategy and actually do the work of moving potentially your sources to the cloud. And if that's not your goal, if you want to keep a hybrid scenario indefinitely, that works as well, because OAC, like I said, can address both situations, cloud and on-premises. OAC also supports what I want to call upgrade of on-premises solutions. Upgrade is not really a true word, that's why I have in quotes there. But what I mean by that is OAC allows you to not lose any investment you made in development in Oracle's on-premises tools. So, for example, if I'm an OBIE shop and I have this RPD, this metadata model that I've been working on for years, and it's very good and it's tested and it's been vetted, and I don't want to change it. OAC allows us to push that model into OAC from the on-premises OBIE instance and use that same model. It doesn't require me to recreate all their work. Same thing with my Essbase cubes. I can create brand new Essbase cubes in the cloud, but if I have any cubes on premises right now that I like, Oracle has utilities that allow us to push those on-premises cubes to Essbase Cloud as well within OAC. So no development time lost there. Last thing I want to mention here is that OAC is actually a platform as a service model as opposed to a software as a service model. And what I mean by that is that, and I go back to Salesforce again. With Salesforce, I swipe my credit card and I get a username and password, and I log in, and my instance is there. But that instance is 100% controlled by the vendor. In OAC, there's a lot more flexibility in terms of your instance. When you sign up for OAC, you actually get access to your instance, to that server, where you can connect to it via SSH and make configuration changes, maybe some customization. Not to the extent of what you could do in OBI on premises, but there's a lot of customization and configuration that you can determine and change yourself within your OAC instance. Also, your upgrades and your patches are decided, they're done when you decide they should be done. So it's a one-click patch and one-click upgrade, but you decide when that's done. Oracle notifies you when there's a new version of the tool available, and you decide when the window to do so happens. It just doesn't happen overnight without you knowing. As I mentioned, one thing I like to do before we jump into the demo is also do a comparison between DV and BIX, which again are two of the main tools in the OAC suite. Because we speak with our clients, we see that there's a lot of confusion around where one fits and where one ends and the other starts, and the fit for each one of them. So I'll go through this list real quick and try to explain a little bit of what I mean by these points here. The thing is that BIX, it's only in the cloud, so only accessible via the browser, connecting to your OAC instance. And DV, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, I can use DV in the browser as well, but I also have a desktop version that I can download and use locally. BIX is, and I don't like to say it that way much, but it's a good way, I think, for folks to understand what BIX is. OBIE in the cloud. It is, when you log into BIX within OAC, if you're an OBIE user, you're going to be very comfortable in there. Things are going to look very familiar, if not almost identical in some screens. And so just like OBIE, it's a dashboarding and enterprise reporting focused tool. It's geared towards what happened yesterday, what happened last week, what happened last month. Every day I log in, I see where my KPIs are, and I make decisions about my data based on what I see. DV, on the other hand, is an exploratory tool. It is geared not towards me studying yesterday's KPIs, but me finding patterns about my data that may be hidden, that may give me insight as to how we should move our needle strategically in terms of our organization. So BIX is a consumer directed tool, while DV is a business analyst directed tool, much more exploratory in nature. BIX content usually is content that has been tested, vetted, and shared. Again, it is the enterprise reporting and dashboarding tool. So because of that, it is content that has been passed from dev to test to prod, vetted. There's security involved in it, what type of content each group can see, and also what data within that content they'll be allowed to see. In DV, the content that we create is geared towards more being a throwaway content, and that may not always be the case. You may create content in DV that you want to save and share and be used later, but the idea there is that it's content that you're starting from scratch to address maybe one specific question, or maybe even content that you're creating without knowing what your question is. You're trying to find patterns and try to find exceptions. And DV is a tool geared towards that type of exploration as well, not towards enterprise shared content. In the same vein there, BIX is used to consume information that's spread across the whole enterprise. Again, the whole idea of an enterprise reporting and dashboarding tool, while DV, as I just mentioned, is used to search for hidden patterns and hidden information. One little quote that I put together as an homage to Spider-Man's uncle here is that with Bix, you have some power, and with that you have some responsibility. What I mean by that is that when I open a Bix dashboard that I consume, the analyst who created the dashboard for me potentially let me have some interaction with that, so I can maybe expand a little bit and change the parameters and the prompts, change it from a pivot table to a graph if I like, and vice versa, maybe even save some of my customizations. But there's a limit. I'm within boundaries of how I can interact with that data. In DV, it's the great power comes great responsibility. I'm in total control of what I'm doing with that data. I need to know the data probably a little bit better than if somebody just consuming a dashboard. I may need to know a little bit more about the structure of the data and how tables potentially join together and what I'm looking for. It is more, again, geared towards the business analyst. And lastly, what I'll say is that Bix is a guided safari. So I've never been on a safari, but I imagine that when you show up, they tell you to climb on the Jeep and you go down a path, and there may be some variance between different days. So when you go into the safari, so one day you may spend more time with the lions, the next day you may spend more time with giraffes, but you are contained, you are within boundaries. You know where you're going to start, you know where you're going to end, and they would never let you run out of the Jeep and go play with the lions, right? So there is a little bit of flexibility in there in what you can do with the information consumed in Bix. Like I said, you can change the parameters in the prompts, you can change the types of views you're looking at, but you're still within some boundaries. In DV is a jungle exploration. I give you a machete, I give you a torch, and you go into the forest to try and live in there and have fun for as long as you want. You decide which direction you're going, you decide how dangerous this exploration is going to be, and very much like that in DV, you have all the flexibility. You decide what type of information you're going to bring in, how are you going to mesh that up with other sources, what you're looking for, what fields you're pulling in. It is really an exploration where it requires you to have a little more knowledge of the data, but again, it gives you a lot more flexibility. With that said, guys, I'm going to switch my screen and do a quick demo of DV. I am in this case using the desktop version of DV, but like I mentioned a few minutes ago, the features and the look and feel is exactly the same as what you get in the cloud, so no differences there. There's a lot we can do in DV, but what I want to focus on is actually creating what we call a project. And a project is, in DV, is the canvas that we use to actually create those visualizations, create that content. When I set out to create a project, the first thing I'm asked is what data set I want to use. I can pick one of the ones that I have here, and I will in a minute. But before I do that, I just want to show you guys a little bit of all the types of connections that we can create in DV. As you see here, the list of connections is very extensive. As I mentioned, relational databases, tools in the Hadoop ecosystem like Spark, SaaS, applications like Salesforce, even file systems like Dropbox and Google Drive are here. So lots of different types. Oracle Essbase is one as well. Lots of different types of connections we can create, both on premises and in the cloud. I could also, as I mentioned earlier as well, just upload a local file, a spreadsheet that I have locally here, and mesh it up maybe with data coming from one of these connections as well. But what I will do now is just pick one of the data sets that I already had there and add it to my project. And at this point, all I need to do is start dropping some of these fields on the canvas and let the tool do the hard job for me. So I'm going to pick a few fields like customer segment and product category and maybe one of my measures quantities. And I'm going to drop them in there, and the tool will dynamically create a visualization that it deems appropriate based on the number of fields that I picked and what types of fields they are. At this point, I am ready to start interacting with the data in any way I want. If I right-click on any of these bars, I get a list of different interactions or actions I can perform. In my case, I would just sort these bars from high to low. I like to see things as from high to low most of the time, so I'm going to do that. And once I have these, I may decide that I want to focus my analysis only on the top two segments, corporate and home office. So very easily I can drag and drop my cursor and highlight just those two bars and say, keep just these two and remove everything else. So I have a more focused analysis at this point. And I may decide now that I want to explore my product dimension a little deeper. So I may want to replace product category with product subcategory, which is a lower level of my product information, and those bars will be broken out a little more. I may also decide to bring a couple more measures into my visualization. So I'm going to grab profit and sales and just drop them in there. And the visualization will keep changing to reflect my choices. Now, because I added 3 measures now, my bars get a little wonky, it may be hard to read. No problem. I have several different types of visualizations that I can choose here. Most of these come out of the box. I have 1 or 2 here that I downloaded from the Oracle Cloud Library as well, so you can do that. But if I'm going to pick in this time a scatter chart to make sure that my visualization is adequate to the fields that I take. At this point, I could choose to save it, to use later, share different ways, or just save a file locally from this visualization, or just throw away and start over a brand new exploration. One more thing I like to show is BIS, which is this feature in the home page that allows me to just type some words and let the tool build the visualization for me. So if I just type the word quantity, the tool will search for every metadata, piece of metadata in all my data sets and find anything that has the word quantity in there. He found quantity order, a field called quantity order in one of my data sets, and he builds me a visualization for it. If I wanted to break it down a little longer, I will type product and pick any product field that it finds. I'm going to break that number down by product container, and the tool will build the visualization that breaks down quantities ordered by product container. And I'm going to go with one more. I'm going to type the word city, and now I get not only a field called city, but also 2 values within that field. Within that field, Salt Lake City and New York, that will allow me to filter these visualizations by those 2 values. If I just pick the city field, more visualizations will be built to reflect that. I think this is a very cool feature because it allows folks that are new to the tool that maybe not be comfortable yet with creating a project from scratch to just, and may not be comfortable yet with the data structure, to just start typing some words and let the tool build the visualizations for them. With all that said, I'm going to switch back to my PowerPoint. Joey, I don't know if we want to, if we have any questions or if we want to take any questions now.
Thanks, Andy. Any questions can be emailed to us at info@ranzel.com, and we will respond via email to your questions. A recording of this webinar will be available on our website shortly, where you may also find a number of previous webinars posted. Just take a minute to note upcoming webinars. Our next webinar is on March 14th, and it demonstrates the out-of-the-box capabilities of strategic modeling, a new financial modeling functionality within Oracle Enterprise Planning and Budgeting Cloud. The webinar focuses specifically on this solution for organizations in the insurance industry. You can register for this and other upcoming webinars by visiting our website. Please also visit our website to follow us on social media to get alerts about upcoming events, training, and webinars. And we hope you gained insight from today's webinar. Thank you to our audience for joining us, and thanks to Andy for sharing your knowledge and expertise during this presentation. This concludes today's webinar.